let's dive into an idea that's, well, it's pretty simple, but it's also incredibly profound. It's the idea that almost everything in our lives is, in one way or another, a placebo. And once you see it, it kind of changes how you think about, well, everything: value, medicine, maybe even reality itself. So let's kick things off with a little puzzle. Have you ever wondered why expensive painkillers just feel like they work better than the cheap ones, even if they have the exact same ingredients? Or why sleeping pills are actually more effective when they're blue? It doesn't seem to make any logical sense, right? But here's the really wild part. We know, for a fact, that the placebo effect helps people heal. It's not imaginary, it's a real measurable thing. And yet, modern medicine spends billions, literally billions of dollars, trying to get rid of it in clinical trials. They want to subtract it to find the real chemical effect. It's kind of like trying to perfect a cake recipe by taking out the sugar. It makes no sense.
Look, any treatment, any drug, really, has two parts working together. On one hand, you've got the chemical effect. That's the active ingredient, the stuff we're all obsessed with. But then there's the psychological effect. And that's, well, it's everything else. It's the story you're told, the fancy packaging, how much it cost, even just the ritual of taking it. You think we'd want to maximize both of these things, but nope, we're almost completely focused on the first one.
And okay, this isn't just some weird quirk of medicine. This principle applies to pretty much everything. The value of things isn't just baked into them. Nope. It's deeply, deeply tied to what they mean to us and the context we find them in. And this is where it gets really fun. Check out some of these examples. Painkillers are actually more powerful if they're colored red. A few years ago, Cadbury changed the shape of their chocolate bars from rectangles to a more rounded shape, and people swore the recipe was different, that it tasted worse. It wasn't. The recipe was identical. You know, wine genuinely tastes better to people when it's poured from a heavier, more impressive-looking bottle. And my favorite, the classic we've all experienced. Your car absolutely 100% drives better right after you wash it. It feels faster, smoother, even though objectively, literally nothing has changed except for a little less dirt. So what is going on here? It all boils down to this. We don't respond to things themselves. We respond to what those things mean. So when you change the story by making a pill look expensive or by washing your car, you change its meaning. And that shift in meaning triggers a real physical gut-level change in how we experience it. Okay, so if this psychological effect is so powerful and so real, why do so many fields, especially places like business and finance, treat it like it's, I don't know, fake or something to be suspicious of? Well, it actually goes way back to a wrong turn that the field of economics took a long, long time ago. So for a long time, mainstream economics wanted to be like physics. It wanted hard, objective, universal laws. And in that world, value is like an object's weight. It's just a property of the thing. It's intrinsic. But there was this other group, the Austrian School of Economics, and they said, hold on a second, that's completely backwards. They argued that value isn't in the object at all. It's entirely subjective. It's created inside the human mind. An Austrian economist, Ludwig von Mises, he put it perfectly with this quote. He's saying there's no real difference between the value created by the person who makes a product, the cook, and the value created by the person who creates the context for it, the person who sweeps the floor and makes the restaurant feel nice. Both of them are creating real, tangible value, because both of them are changing your experience for the better. And this right here is why so many people in finance or engineering, well, they often hate marketing. Their whole worldview is built on that old mainstream model. Step 1, assume value is objective. Step 2, pretend that people are perfectly rational robots. And then boom, you come to the only possible conclusion: marketing must be a trick, an inefficiency. It's not creating value, it's just a cost you should try to cut. But that's all just economic theory, right? What if I told you there is undeniable biological proof that value is all about context? Proof so fundamental that even monkeys get it. Let's talk about one of the coolest experiments in all of behavioral science. Okay, the setup is super simple. A researcher teaches a capuchin monkey that if it hands over a little rock, it gets a slice of cucumber. And the monkey's totally cool with this. It does it again and again, perfectly happy. It's a fair deal. That cucumber has value. But then, what happens when you introduce one tiny little change to the context of that deal? This is where things get really interesting. The researcher brings in a second monkey. Now, our first monkey, monkey A, still gets a cucumber for its rock, but it watches as monkey B hands over a rock and gets A grape? And a grape is like the ultimate prize for a monkey? Suddenly, the market isn't fair anymore. So what happens next? It's amazing. The first monkey hands over its rock, gets its cucumber, but now it's seen the other deal, and it is furious. It actually picks up the rock and tests it, as if to say, is this thing broken? Then it takes the cucumber, the same exact piece of food it was delighted with just moments before, and throws it right back in the researcher's face in total disgust. The cucumber itself didn't change. Its value wasn't intrinsic. It was completely defined by the context. As the researchers who ran the experiment said, and I love this, what you're seeing is basically a primate version of an Occupy Wall Street protest. It's this raw, primal reaction to unfairness, and it proves beyond a doubt that value is relative, not absolute. So, if this is all so fundamental to how we work, and even how monkeys work, why do our biggest organizations and systems get it wrong over and over and over again? Well, it all comes down to a really simple but powerful human bias. It's known as the McNamara fallacy. It was named after Robert McNamara, who was the Secretary of Defense during the Vietnam War. And it's basically this. It's the trap of making huge decisions based only on the things you can easily count and stick in a spreadsheet, while you completely ignore all the fuzzy, subjective stuff that's often way, way more important. And you see this fallacy playing out absolutely everywhere. You know, hospitals obsessively measure your waiting time in minutes, but what often matters way more to a patient is the feeling of being listened to and making progress. In Vietnam, McNamara was obsessed with measuring the enemy body count, but he was ignoring the thing that actually mattered, winning hearts and minds. And in medicine, we measure the chemical formula down to the last molecule, while we discount its perceived efficacy. Yup, the placebo effect. So here's the big takeaway. We have got to stop seeing this psychological side of value as a bug or a trick or some kind of cheat. We need to start seeing it for what it truly is, an incredibly powerful feature of being human. There's a deep, deep reason why our brains work this way. The evolutionary biologist Robert Trivers absolutely nailed it. Evolution doesn't give a damn if our perception of reality is 100% accurate. It only cares about what helps us survive and reproduce. Our brains were not designed to be perfect scientific instruments. They're survival machines. So this whole messy, context-dependent way we see the world, it isn't a flaw that we need to fix. It's not a bug. It's a feature. It was designed over millions of years to help us navigate a really complex social world. And once you really embrace that, you start to see the incredible power hiding in plain sight. I mean, think about it. Creating value by changing a story or improving a context, that is unbelievably efficient. It doesn't require mining any new materials or burning any extra carbon. You are creating real, tangible economic value out of nothing more than stories, context, and meaning. Which really just leaves us with one final big question. If changing the meaning of things is this powerful, if it can make medicine work better, make food taste better, and create massive value out of thin air, what other kinds of magic are we just leaving on the table simply because we can't measure it on a spreadsheet?